Hello guys, today I'll be doing a versus video, and the albums I'll be comparing today are River Runs Red by Life of Agony and Bloody Kisses by Type 1 Negative. Now the reason why I'm comparing these two albums is because they both came out in 1993, and also they're both from New York, and they're also big releases for these bands. River Runs Red maybe being Life of Agony's biggest album, while with Typo Negative, Bloody Kisses might have been their biggest album. Either that album or October Rust, of course. But with Bloody Kisses, the album is definitely a landmark album in gothic metal and a big album in the genre too, of course. And the album also has elements of doom metal, especially if you listen to songs like the title track or Bloody Kisses. But with River Runs Red, the album explores alt metal, and also you have elements of groove and also a little bit of hardcore in there, especially with songs like Method of Groove or even The Stained Remains. But River Runs Red is also a concept album that explores themes of like suicide and abuse, abandonment, and themes like that. So lyrically, it's a fairly dark album, but if I had to choose which album I like more, and with these versus videos, again, if you're new here, these are more about which album I like more. I'm not talking more about like quality or what the critics say. This is more about what album I like more. But so make sure to keep that in mind. But with which album I like more, I might be leaning more towards Bloody Kisses, but that's really only a hair because River Runs Red I think is a really excellent album. Also with these bands, I think they both have pretty unique singers. Peter Steele, no one sounds like him. That dark, low voice, and of course, rest in peace. Definitely a great vocalist. Kind of overlooked a little bit, not as overlooked as Keith Caputo, or of course now known as Mina, but Peter Steele. He has a really great voice. A voice that's not for everybody, but I really dig his voice. I'll admit, when I was getting into Type 1 Negative, it took me a little bit to really get used to the sound and the vocals and all that, but I really dig Type 1 Negative, and Bloody Kisses is, of course, one of my favorites from the band. But while I do like Bloody Kisses more, there's no denying the fact that River Runs Red is an excellent album. And with that album, you have tracks like "This Time," which is a good example of, or one of the good examples on the album that shows how well Life of Agony can be with transitions, whether it be transitions from being more thrashy or hardcore to transitioning from that to something more groovy or melodic. And they're really good at that. The transition work, you can maybe say they have a little bit of elements of prog, a little bit. I mean, it's not very high, but you can kind of hear it a little bit. Or maybe it's just the transition work and how it's structured and all that. But this time, again, probably one of my favorite Life of Agony songs. We also have some other great songs like Underground and Through and Bad Seed, which might have some of my favorite rhythm work on the album. It's some of my favorite riffs too. But you also have some strong stuff in the second half, of course, like Saint Remains and Method of Groove. I also think Respect is kind of an underrated song that has some nice riffs to it. Joey Z is kind of an underrated guitar player. Not one of my personal favorites by any means, but I think he is pretty good. She does show that he does offer some strong riffs, especially with this album and the next album, Ugly. But yeah, River Runs Red, definitely a great album. But then we have Bloody Kisses, which is just so good. I mean, again, not for everybody, but I personally really like the album. Of course, it had their big single, Black Number One, which is, of course, one of their best songs. You also have Christian Woman, another big single for them. But either the lesser known songs on the album I think are pretty dang good, especially songs like Too Late Frozen, another personal favorite of mine from Type 1 Negative, and Can't Lose You, which I think is maybe one of their most underrated songs. I mean, it's a bit of a more slower song, has a dark, creepy-ish atmosphere to it, kind of like with the rest of the album. But I also like the more hardcore side of the album with songs like Kill All the White People and We Hate Everyone. But I also really like that doomy part, We Hate everyone around the 2 minutes mark where it gets a bit more groovy, a bit more doomy. I really like that part and how dark it is too. But also you have the cover of Summer Breeze, which is also excellent. I don't think I've heard the original. I could be wrong, but I don't know. Maybe I'll give it another listen. But all around, I still think it's a solid cover. But yeah, Bloody Kisses is the album that I'm going to have to go with for this versus video. But anyways, let me know your thoughts. Have you heard both albums, or have you heard only one of the albums? And of course, if you've only heard one of the albums, definitely check out the other. I definitely highly recommend checking out both if you haven't heard both or one or the other or whatever. But yeah, let me know which album you enjoy more and all that good stuff. But anyways, thanks for watching. Please leave a comment and like, subscribe. Have a nice day and take care.